Insecurity comes out in human beings through fleshly ways. It's sensuality. Sensuality happens in us in a lot of different ways. But sensuality becomes the goal of our lives. It becomes the most important thing if we're living in darkness. If a person is not able or willing to live honestly and interactively with God, then what happens is I become the most important person in my life. And it doesn't matter what anybody else needs or wants or does around me. I am more important than anybody else. And all my decisions are based on me. And so what gives me pleasure, what makes me happy, what makes me feel good, what I want when I want it is what is most important. It's darkness. That's not God's way. It looks like pride. It looks like power. Power is not a bad thing unless it's power hunger or power abuse. It looks like sometimes violence. You look at these leaders that get control of a nation and they won't let it go. They become a dictator and they'll do anything to keep control. Darkness. Sex. It consumes you. It's the lusts of the flesh. Overeating. We experienced it yesterday, the temptation to it, because we went looking for vehicles. The first newish truck that we got in, man, me and the boys were like, "Oh, I like this one. This is cool. Let's get this. Let's get this." We got all that new car, hunger. It makes me feel good. I want this one. And Deb said, wait a minute. Let's look at what we need. This thing's way too small for our needs. You need a bigger bed so I can get big loads of dirt in it and you can shovel them around the yard. Desire can consume us. Sensual desires. What I want when I want it. Now. It's sin. It's the core of what makes us rotten apart from God. We begin to pursue every pleasurable sensation. And it's the downfall. And here's the essence of it. We begin to worship the creature rather than the Creator. We turn from the personal. Jesus is telling us you need to turn from your personal kingdom. You need to turn to God's kingdom. You need to step out of your darkness and step into God's light. Dallas Willard said in a book I've recently read, if we're not living the great drama of goodness in God's kingdom, sensuality through the body is all that is left under our kingdom. And it's true. I can tell you that because I'm just as bad as anybody. Those are my temptations. I'm going to read you some heavy-duty scripture real quick. This is from Ephesians 4. Paul wrote to the church in Ephesus, with the Lord's authority I say this, live no longer as the Gentiles do, those that are in darkness. For they're hopelessly confused. Their minds are full of darkness. They wander far from the life that God gives because they have closed their minds and hardened their hearts against Him. They have no sense of shame. They live for lustful pleasure and eagerly practice every kind of impurity. This is the natural progression in a life lived apart from God. Romans 1, 28-32. Since they thought it foolish to acknowledge God, He abandoned them to their foolish thinking and let them do things that should never be done. Their lives became full of every kind of wickedness, sin, greed, hate, envy, murder, quarreling, deception, malicious behavior, and gossip. They're backstabbers, haters of God, insolent, proud, and boastful. They invent new ways of sinning, and they disobey their parents. Hear that? They refuse to understand. Break the promises, are heartless, and have no mercy. They know God's justice requires that those who do these things deserve to die, yet they do them anyway. Worse yet, they encourage others to do them too. These are the consequences of our kingdom, of deciding I'm going to stay in my kingdom. My kingdom come. My will be done. That's self-obsession. 2 Timothy 3, 1-5. This is the last one, I promise. You should know this, Timothy, that in the last days there will be very difficult times for people who will love only themselves and their money. They'll be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents. Let me this again. It's a pretty regular one. And ungrateful, They'll consider nothing sacred. They'll be unloving and unforgiving. They'll slander others and have no self-control. They'll be cruel and hate what is good. They will betray their friends, be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and love pleasure rather than God. They will act religious, but they'll reject the power that could make them godly. Stay away from people like that. That's what he says. The end stage, isn't it interesting? The end stage. He's talking about the dangers of the last days. You look at every successful human civilization. You look at Rome, you can look at Greece, you can look at all these other, Babylon. The end stage of every successful human civilization looks like this. You can see it coming on here. We better be careful. This is darkness. This is separation from God and His ways. We reap what we sow. Jesus steps up and He says, this is darkness, but this is God's light. And it's near, it's here, it's right here. Lost, to be a lost soul means that you don't know where you are. You're not where you're supposed to be. You should be caught up in God's life, not trapped in your own.